This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast with today's guest, Sarah Riegelhuth.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to today's episode. This is a super quick intro from me because as I record this, it's currently 7:30 in the morning and I'm sitting in the lounge at Sydney Airport ready to go on a little bit of a mini break. My family and I are heading out to the Outback. We are going to Broken Hill, which is one of the driest places in Australia. And I'll make sure to share loads of pictures on Facebook and Instagram. So make sure if you would like to see what the Outback looks like, that you follow me on Instagram. But the reason I can do all of this is because I have an amazing team. And I realised right from the beginning, all those years ago when I first started out, that I needed to have people around me. I could not grow my business by myself. But I really struggled in those first few years finding somebody who could do the things I needed to do. And look, now over a decade later, I'm much wiser. I've built a whole course on how to hire the right people, and I'm really happy with the team that I've got. It does evolve and it does change as you move your business, as you grow your business, as you move your business forward. But the team I've got now are absolutely amazing. And if it wasn't for them, I couldn't be taking this mini break. In fact, I couldn't have the business I have today. So today's guest is Sarah Riegelhuth, and she is going to share with us how to find the right team when they're working remote. That's all from me because that is my boarding call that you can hear in the background. So I'm going to go. I hope you love today's episode because it is amazing when you get fantastic people to help you grow your team. Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Have you ever wondered how easy or maybe how difficult it is to deal with a remote workforce? Well, today I've got Sarah Riegelhuth on the show to talk all about how she's not only started a bunch of companies, but how since 2013, she's made them all remotely operated or remotely staffed. And she's going to help us with the tips and tricks on how you can do it too. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here. Look forward to talking about my favourite topic that gives you the best lifestyle on earth.
I did have to laugh because the information I got through said, I've started a bunch of companies since 2009. Some of them great, some of them not so much.
That's life as an entrepreneur.
Tell us a little bit, before we jump into the growing your team, tell us a little bit about how you decided which companies you would continue with and which ones you wouldn't, because I find that really interesting. At what point do you decide to just cut your losses and go, this one just isn't worth putting the effort in anymore?
Really, I don't think it's the company. I think it's you. It's really a question of what energy you have at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of a believer that almost anything can work if you have the energy and the alignment and it's kind of in your authenticity and integrity that this is what you want to be doing. But it's really important to look at where you're at because it does take energy to birth a company and bring it to life. And ideation can be really fun, but then it gets into like the repetitive nature of just bringing it, continuing on with it. So really, like the only companies that I failed a company basically because of that. I just raised $750,000. It was about literally the day I got the last check-in. And I knew I didn't have the strategy right, but more importantly, I just didn't have the energy. I was really burnt out from a court case that I'd been managing for 2.5 years. I was just exhausted. I had 2 other companies that were firing and growing and taking a lot of time. And I had other people's money. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I just got to be true with myself. It's not the business. I can fix the strategy. I can make that work. But it's not working right now. It needs time and energy to fix it. And I don't have that right now. Like, I'm burnt out.
So what did
really
you do with the money?
Gave it back.
Gave it back?
Sent it all back. Yep. Just told them all. I don't have that right and I don't have the energy. And thanks for believing in me, but I just can't do it. And then I basically like shut the company down-ish, sold some of it off, but pretty much just shut it down. It was only like a 2-year-old startup, maybe not even 2 years, maybe 1 year. So I think a lot of it really comes down to like energy. Everything else I've started, I had like an online program, which was another one that I just found myself down the track. Like, I'm just not that interested in it anymore. Like it was sort of like tied into one of my other companies. And I was like, I'm just putting all my attention here. And this is like this side thing. It was an online personal financial management program tied to my book, Get Rich Slow. And then I just was like, so I sort of just like rolled that into the other business because it was just like not worth the energy of having it separately.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, I'm a really big believer that that's what success or failure comes down to, is like your energy as an entrepreneur, your alignment, your passion, and your enthusiasm to be able to show up every day and continue on that journey.
Well, first up, that shows such great integrity, just giving the money back, because it would have been so easy if you were not so scrupulous. You could have just taken the money, thrown some stuff together and said, sorry, it didn't work. So, kudos to you for actually acknowledging that you just didn't have the energy. But I agree, so many people, and I think this is, they say that businesses fail mostly because of money, but I think it's because exactly what you said, those first 18 months, you're so excited and you're so passionate about whatever it is. And then you get to the point where it's like, oh, actually, this has to make money. This has to run. This has to have systems. This has to have marketing. Doesn't matter what you're selling or what you're doing, what service you're providing. The day-to-day stuff comes in. I've got to do my taxes. I've got to do all the boring stuff that comes with running a business. And for most people, you can't afford to bring a CEO in. So you're doing all the things, which is when all the energy disappears.
Exactly. And I think, we learn on this journey as an entrepreneur, and in the beginning, we're not very good at it. Like, we're doing things we shouldn't be doing. We don't know what we're doing. I mean, I still don't know what I'm doing some days, and that's okay, but I'm far more comfortable in that unknown now. Like, I'm used to being out of my comfort zone, out of my depth. And I have a lot of trust in myself now and in the universe and tapping into flow and just like knowing where I need to be. But 10 years ago, I was not like that. Like, I was just pushing and shoving and trying to make it all work. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was constantly messing up. And I think in the beginning, there's just so much failure. Failure, I say, it's not really failure, but there's so much feeling of that if you've come from a job where you were good at your job, the chances are you went in and crushed it every single day for many years because you were good at it. And now all of a sudden you're doing something that you have no freaking clue what you're doing. And every day is a new challenge. And there's a lot, like, it takes a while to build that resilience to just be like, all this stuff happens every day and doesn't even matter. Like, I'll live to see another day. It'll be fine.
I know that is
doesn't
so
be
true.
like that at the start.
It's so true, just coming from one business to another. When I sold my retail stores, we had a chain of stores and I was big fish in a little pond. It was a niche industry. I was on TV. I was in the paper. I was I felt pretty proud of myself. And then when I started this consulting business, I just thought that, 6 weeks in, I'd be rolling in the dough because I've run a business for 10 years. I know what I'm doing, but nobody had ever heard of me in this business.
Yeah.
So it's taken years to build up that, the brand awareness, I guess. And I saw a great video. I think it was someone like Gary Vee or maybe Ezra Firestone. Maybe it was Ezra Firestone talking about how, and this made me think of what you just said, your book, Get Rich Slow. He was talking about something very similar. And he's like, are you in too much of a hurry to make money? And there is all this pressure on us to hustle. And you've got to be profitable in, 6 weeks, 6 months, 12 months. If 2 years in, you're still not profitable, you should throw it all away. But he was saying, actually, it takes 2 to 3 years to actually build a brand, unless you've got a crap ton of money behind you, unless you've got some VC or, you've remortgaged your house and you've got $500,000 to pump in. For the most part, you're going to be doing all the things, wearing all the hats, and just making those little small steps.
Yep, exactly. It takes a long time. I mean, I think it takes about 5 years, really, on average, to get a business to that point where you might actually be profitable. And that's just something that's reality. And I don't think it has to be that way. In fact, I'm very open to it not being that way and for things to happen a little faster. But I think it's good to kind of just understand what you're doing. Like you said, it's not going to be a couple of months in and you're just like making all the money and off you go. Like, there's probably going to be some challenges, and just being ready for that journey is really important, I think.
I think that is the best segue to talking about what you help people with, because I know when I hired my first remote person, it was a bit of a nightmare because I didn't know what I was doing. I've since built a
Mhm.
whole process about hiring people, which is pretty amazing. But at the beginning, it's so easy to get fleeced. And I'll be the first to admit, I think I've said this on the podcast before. Only just recently, we hired somebody to build us to do some integration between two programs. It was,
Mhm.
and it was on. Is it called Upwork now? No, what's it called these days? Upwork.
Yeah,
Yep,
Upwork.
yep.
Yeah.
And it should have been a set figure job because it was just integrate this with this. It was just a couple of things that needed to be done. And he was determined to be hourly rate. And I was like, I don't understand why you would want an hourly rate. And I said, in the documentation, I was like, right, okay, you can have an hourly rate, but only up to $300. So I think it
Mhm.
was $30 an hour. So you can have up to 10 hours. But it turned out, and I didn't know this, and this is where you have to say, well, this is my own learning lesson, that he didn't actually know what he was doing. But because it was not a fixed contract fee, it was an hourly rate, you have no recourse on Upwork. As long as their work
Mhm.
diary shows that they were working on your website, which is not hard because they just stick the website on their computer and walk away, there's
Yeah.
no recourse. So, I mean,
Mm.
we lost out on the $300, but had it have been a fixed fee job, then we would have been able to take that further. But after all the remote hiring I've done, and I've probably hired 30 or 40 people in my life, I didn't even know that. So there are a lot of pitfalls. So please tell us why we should look at hiring remote staff and how do we do it well?
Mhm. Well, I think the first thing is, you know, just back to basics is, hiring a remote staff member is really the same as hiring a local staff member when you're looking at like cultural fit and skills and experience and all of that. So away from the technicality of like which platform you would use or how you would find those people, when you're sitting interviewing face to face with somebody, it's just the same. You're doing it online like we are, but you're still looking for the same things that you would be if they were coming into your office. They're human beings just happening to be not working in the office with you, so it's really exactly the same. um, and I think, the benefits of going remote are obvious. It gives us as business owners a lot more flexibility. It gives our team more flexibility, which in my experience, they love and enjoy and appreciate. And I think we all become entrepreneurs to have this freedom and flexibility, which we then sometimes find ourselves in an office at 7 a.m. and not leaving until 10 p.m. at night with like a slave to all of
To our
that.
business.
So
Yep.
yeah,
We've talked a
exactly.
lot about that on the podcast recently, being a slave to your business.
Yeah. And I think like I'm fully flexible with my team and we're fully remote and fully flexible, so they can work whatever hours they want. I work whatever hours I want, and it's very outcomes based. So kind of back to what you were saying, with paying per hour and things like that. Like for me, this is the job. Can you do the job? This is what I'll pay you monthly. I hire all my staff pretty much on an ongoing basis. I
Yep.
have done some project work stuff, but I think it's like a different conversation. There's some pitfalls there that you have to be really aware of that you
I think so.
you've experienced recently. Yeah. At Grow My Team, we recruit and manage long-term permanent positions, basically. And it is very much the same process that we would go through if we were a local recruitment agency working with you. We just happen to be finding people who are based anywhere in the world and who work from home or from traveling or whatever. So we headhunt in the same way, we advertise in the same way, and then we take through an interview process with our clients in the same way. And I think that when you're looking for longer term people, partnering with a company like ours,
Yeah.
or even if you want to do it yourself, but going through like a proper process, a
Process.
hiring process, is really, really important, because you're still looking for someone who's got your back, who's culturally aligned, who's experienced and skilled and can do the work. And like hiring someone locally, if it turns out that they don't have those skills that they said they did, then time to move them on and find somebody else. And we don't always get it right with hiring. It's one of the most challenging things, because we're hiring people, and people are
Yeah.
complex, and they're different. We can't just pick them off the shelf and off we go. Like, there's a lot of things, and things happen in their lives that can distract them. And you know what it's like managing a team anywhere. It's no
Yeah.
different when they're remote.
What do they say? Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, exactly. And we really subscribe to that and talk with our clients a lot about that. Like, let's take the time to find the right person. And then if you're not happy, like, let's turn it around, because if you're not happy, they're not going to be happy either. Like,
No.
I remember my first days as a leader, my first years, I was just like every other entrepreneur. I complained about my team all the time. I was like, fucking, they're all incompetent. Like, oh my God, is there any competent people out there? And blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I had high turnover. They weren't really that happy either. And then when I started looking at myself, I was like, well, it's me as a leader. Like, I need to be a better leader. Yeah. And one day I just started saying, I love my team. My team are awesome. I love my team. They're amazing. And you know what? I do love my team. It took a little transition to get the love, but I put that intention out there into the universe. And I was like, people are amazing. They're better than me at their jobs. I love them. And all of a sudden that started to fall into place. And I had no staff turnover really after that, or only beautiful transitions out where people had been with me for 5 or 6 years and they, you know, they're now stepping in to do something else where I then like hire them back as a consultant or something. Like the relationship just shifts, which is really amazing. But yeah, it's like, I think just looking at what are we creating as leaders, and what environment are we cultivating for our team.
I
don't even know
definitely.
if I'm answering your questions. I'm just talking right now.
No, that's okay. No, I think it's very right. I 100% agree with you. I remember my first couple of hires and didn't have a job description. I just knew I needed help. And so the people would come in for an interview and I was just like, so I need you to do this and I need you to do this and I need you to do this and I need you to do this. And of course, when it's your business, you do all the things. And so it's very hard for you to get in, especially if you're in those first few years, very hard for you to comprehend that it's not somebody else's business. It's not their job to do all the things.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest obstacles I see a lot of people doing, especially when they're hiring, say, a virtual assistant, is they want that person to be a graphic designer and a bookkeeper and to write blog posts for them and to fix the website and all the things you've done as an entrepreneur because you've learnt them, but that's not their job. And to be fair, if they can do all those things, they probably can't do them well, which is why you're looking for someone, because you're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, I really don't resonate with the term virtual assistant because I'm like, what is the role though? Like, what are you hiring? Like, it's like just saying I'm hiring a person who's virtual. Like, is it a personal assistant who's virtual? And if it is, then that's fine. So what you want is someone to manage your email, your calendar, you know, maybe book appointments for you and get you organized. Like, that's a personal assistant who's virtual. Or are you hiring a marketing person, as you said, or a bookkeeper? Because a bookkeeper is not a virtual assistant. A bookkeeper is a bookkeeper.
Yes.
A marketer is a marketer. And I think that term virtual assistant just got bandied around so much in the early days of remote work. And it has created this expectation that you can find this magic person who can do all of these different things.
The unicorn assistant.
Well, where are they? Where are they in Australia or the US or Canada? Like, if they're not here, why would they be somewhere else? Like, as you say, like, we kind of figure our heads around a lot of different things as entrepreneurs because we have to. But when I'm now wanting to not figure my head around that particular area of my business, I don't want to hire someone like me. I want to hire like a marketing expert who's got 15 years of marketing experience, or I want to hire a financial controller who's got, you know, 15 years of finance experience, not someone who dabbles in this and that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the whole point. So,
and that was the other thing on like not loving my team and going to loving my team, was like truly believing that I'll find people that are much better than me at that thing. And I did.
And being okay with you not being the smartest person in the room.
I love it.
That was a big thing for me, was like, it's not my job to be the smartest person in the room. It's my job to do this. And these people are great at what they do.
Yeah.
So that was really easy for me. The big transition for that was merchandising. Like, I thought I could merchandise my store, but when I started getting these messages in the communication, that book that said, a box of stock came in, please don't merchandise it, I'll do it tomorrow. It was pretty clear that that was not my forte.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. It's amazing.
So tell us about, just quickly, how do you put together a brief for the person that you're looking for?
As in like what you would be like the advertising brief that you would use, or more like the job description?
Like, how do you even just choose the person that you need? Because if you're an entrepreneur doing all the things, how do you choose the thing? And this is why people, I think, get sucked into this. I need a virtual assistant because I don't need another me. How do you choose the thing you need to outsource or offload or bring someone to help you, whatever word you want to use? How do you choose that thing first?
Yep. So the first thing I'll say is, as entrepreneurs, we always want to know what the right thing is. What should I do? We get all caught in our decision. We get paralysis analysis and we don't do anything. The first thing I want to say is, like, there is no right or wrong. This is a journey. We've become entrepreneurs and we're going to do things, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
Here for the,
And
here for the long run.
just do something. Sorry, I'm just getting comfortable in my chair. Just do something, because that will set you in a path, and you can always pivot and adjust and do something else. So a great exercise to figure out, what you would love to hand off first is really that. Like, what would you love to hand off versus what's the right person to hire first or the right role to hire first. There's no answer to that. Really depends on what are you good at and you love. As you say, we're doing all of these different things. So there's a thing called the sticky note exercise. So get these sticky notes and start writing down all the things you do every day. And then once you've got like 100 of them stuck up on the wall, literally sit there and be like, I'll keep that. I hate that. I'll keep that. I hate that. I'll keep that. I hate that. Don't get in your head like, oh, but I have to do that because I'm really good at that. Forget that. Just start with, what do I love and what do I not love? Then we can start to look at what do I not love and figure out, how some of that could form into a role. And you might, maybe it's the finances and the marketing seem to be the sorts of things that are on that pile. And then you can decide, well, do I want to hire, which one's taking up more of my time? Which one do I like least? Which one would benefit the business more, and start there. So you might end up deciding, marketing, like we could really use the lead generation or whatever, and I'm really not that good at it. So the bookkeeper or the finance person might be the next hire, but I'll go with the marketing one first. I think that exercise is great. And then
that's
also,
interesting. Yep.
Sorry.
No, you go, because I've got another question for you.
Well, also you then have the start of the job description, because you've got these like sticky notes with tasks that are what form part of that job.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What you were just saying there about separating it out and then sort of seeing, what you love and what you don't love. I see over and over again. You just go to any Facebook business type forum and everyone is looking for someone to do their social media. But this is what I find. And look, I will be the first to admit my social media, not so great. But as of today, we actually took on a new person to look after it. But it wasn't really making us money. And stats show that email marketing has 122% ROI, social media 28. So when I was looking for the last hire, even though you would think someone who loves talking would love to be on social media, oh my God, it hurts my brain, which is why our Instagram feed really isn't that great. And apart from Facebook Lives, there's not an awful lot on Facebook. But what I knew is I needed someone to develop complex email funnels for me. And when I had a choice of, actually, should I persevere with the slightly dismal social media, or should I bring somebody on to fix my funnels and help us with a new program that will make money? It was kind of a no-brainer. So you were saying there, which one is going to benefit the company?
Yeah.
And whilst you might feel overwhelmed with social media, at the end of the day, you could post once a day. And really, for what people are seeing on social media, I think we put so much emphasis in being on there all the time. And I'm sure there's some social media experts out there going, don't say that. But at the end of the day, if you've got someone building email funnels for you or doing your marketing for you, that will bring the money in so that you can hire the social media person.
I think it depends on the business. Like some businesses absolutely live and die by their social media. Other businesses, it will be their email marketing. Other businesses, it's so easy to get customers and sales, but delivering on what they do is the struggle. And it could be an operations manager that's really going to help, or something like that. So it's really, there's no hard and fast rule about what are the things, but I really like your point about, don't just assume that because you're a business, you have to do XYZ social media or whatever it might be. I mean, really look at always, I think as a business, we have to be looking at the return on investment of everything that we're doing. Like, is that actually a priority? Does that actually improve our business somehow, like financially or culturally or whatever it might be?
Yeah. And maybe, so like you said, maybe you said social media is the thing that you should be bringing somebody in if it is driving all the traffic to your website, or if it is driving all the sales in your business. So that, I think, is very key, because so often we get caught up in the, like you said, which one is the right one? And the fact is, you might not get it right the first time.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Probably won't. Like, how literally
probably won't.
Almost every day as a business owner, and then you just start to get used to it and you're like, oh, that's all right, what did I learn?
All right, so say we have now decided we found the kind of person we want, and let's even fast forward to the part of hiring them? Like, how do you say you've got a great job ad? How do you actually decide which person? Because time zones are a big thing. And I know for me, I've actually rejected people because their time zone just doesn't fit with my team. And it's just, I can't wait a day for questions and answers to come back. But how do you decide? So you've got 5 great candidates and you're looking at them and they're all in different time zones and they all are kind of similarly experienced. Which one do you choose?
Well, I'm a bit of a hippie, so I just go with my intuition because I like how much I like people and vibe with them. But that's like not the right answer.
Although you say that, but I'm currently interviewing for housekeeper, and I didn't particularly like the lady that came yesterday, although she seemed perfectly experienced.
I mean, it is your culture, right? Like you have to get on with people. I think it's really important not to get biased by liking someone. Like I think that's really important, not to hire someone that you like who doesn't have the skills and experience. But I am, yeah. So in my role as CEO of Grow My Team, the answer would be like, have a really set process and structures and those kind of not negotiables. Like for some businesses, time zones really don't matter. In my business, it doesn't at all. Like people can do whatever they want, whenever they want. We have 1 meeting a week that everyone needs to be on. And outside of that, I'm happy for people to do whatever they need. But other businesses, that doesn't work. And that's an individual choice or sometimes a need. So those things can become non-negotiables or not. So it's kind of like knowing, and same with skills and experience. Like certain things like they have to have that skill or that experience or that degree or whatever it might be. So having those kind of like lists of these are must-have, these are nice to haves, so that anyone who doesn't have the must-haves, you're just not even looking at them, no matter how wonderful they are from a personality perspective, because that is something that can happen. We get caught up and we hire someone we like and they just don't have the skills or experience, and that can be detrimental. So I think kind of, but if you've got to that point where you've got that 5 and they all do kind of meet that criteria, I think a lot of it is cultural fit then becomes a great kind of thing to look at. Like, and the time zone thing might be important. And if it is, then that would be on the list and that person wouldn't even be in the mix because they're not on the right time zone or whatever. But culture to me is everything, building highly engaged teams who are happy, that you're happy and they're happy. They've got career opportunity with you, they're thriving, you're thriving, that means the business will thrive. Like that's where you get high performance that translates to profit, is when you have an engaged team. So for me, it's all about them engaging with me as a leader because I am their leader, so that we have some synergy there, but also that they're engaging with our vision and what we're actually doing as an organization, because I do tend to hire people who are incredibly passionate as I am about what we do. And that works really very well for me. Other people, that's not such a thing. They want someone to come in and do the job and leave, and that's the kind of leader they are. I'm not. I live and breathe what I do, and my team are around the clock. Like they have ultimate flexibility. They can turn up at the hairdresser with friggin' foils in their hair to the weekly meeting if they want, or outside the Pilates studio.
As long as they're there.
As long as they're there. But what also comes with that flexibility, so I have an unlimited leave policy. They can take as much vacation as they want. They organize themselves, so they get other people to cover them. So I don't want to waste my time trying to figure out that sort of stuff. So, but with all of that flexibility and trust and responsibility that I give them, sometimes it's like midnight and I'm messaging and I need them to do something and they got to do it. Like that's the way that I work. That's the way that I lead. I live and breathe what I do, and my team tend to as well. But creating your culture.
I think that is so important to know what you want, because I'm very much the same. I have none of my team are full-time, so they're sort of 10, 20 hours a week, but we have that same culture. It's like I'm totally flexible. If you need to work more hours, that's fine. We have our 1 meeting, that's the non-negotiable. But by the same thing, I think if you just, like you said, foster that great culture, they don't care about answering an email at 7 p.m. Like they like working with you. They like the thing that you're doing. They like being part of this team. And it's by the same token, they know that if they send something to you and it's 7 o'clock at night, it might just be a quick 2-second email, but you'll get back that they can on. And in this global 24/7, everything is on kind of lifestyle, we do want to distance ourselves, I think, from our work. It's very hard to have that, I just work 9 till 5. But by the same token, I think the flexibility needs to come into it so that so it's not all reliant on 9 till 5. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that very well.
I know what you mean. And I think it also comes to training your customers. Like Grow My Team is a fully global company. Our team are all over the world. They always have been. We've never had an office. We've never had anything centralized. And our clients are in Australia, the US, and Canada. So there is no, what's 9 to 5? Like where?
Yeah, where?
Which place? So our customers kind of know that. And our turnaround time is probably within 24 hours. Like it's not going to be within an hour. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like that's just how we work. And I don't know. I'm okay
You got to
with
set that
Like,
expectation though, don't you?
yeah. And I don't even really, like, it's not like we need to even say it, but I think, that we don't, just because we're flexible and working at different hours of the day doesn't mean we need to be like ridiculous and work 24 hours a day. Like
That's what I was
literally
trying to say.
like work for the full 24 hours. It just means you might be available for 5 minutes at 7 p.m. Doesn't mean you're sitting down at your computer for hours.
No.
And I think like this flexible outcome driven work with like proper expectations set that like things are not going to get turned around instantly. I just think that creates so much pressure if you've got clients who are like, oh, I've got such high expectations. I must have this back in 1 hour. It's like, why? Like,
Yeah. And if you do, you have to pay for that. If you want that, you have to pay extra for that.
But what are we doing in the world that we really need things back that quickly? I mean, some things are, I get it, but far less than what we imagine.
I remember someone having someone on the podcast, and I can't remember who it is right now, but they said something along the lines of, I should not have to pay with my time because of your laziness. And the only reason you ever need anything done in an hour is because you were too slack to get yourself organized. 9 times out of 10, it's just because you were not organized. So why should I have to pay? You can pay me the extra to get that quickly. Yeah. But it's not my job to pick up for your laziness and your disorganization.
No. Yeah. And I mean, obviously we're in hiring, so we'll talk with our clients about how quickly they want to onboard someone, but also like we're going to find the right person, and it probably wouldn't be the right person if I could give them to you tomorrow. Like, unless we just got lucky and I had this great candidate sitting there that I'd happen to be hiring for another role or whatever. Like it does happen occasionally. Yeah. But most of the time it's going to take a little while, and we try to place within 30 days. That's kind of our benchmark. But and we set those expectations, and I'm like, well, it's much more important to me to find someone that you're happy with, it's going to stay with you over the long term, than for me to shove someone under your nose like instantly and force you to hire them or push you to hire them, and then it's not the right person. Like, and if someone says I need this person tomorrow, I'll just be like, we're just not the right firm. Like, go on Upwork and you'll probably find someone. Yeah, exactly. But that's not what we do. So it's also just knowing what you do. Like, there are businesses that do need to be instant, but as you say, people are paying for that. They're paying for that service. That's not my service, so we don't need to provide that. And we're more focused on quality over kind of like that instant fix thing.
So you said a few times working on outcomes based, performance based. How do you manage that? Because a lot of us have probably come from not a corporate world, but some kind of world where you work 8 hours a day, or you work X amount of hours, you get this much done. How do we get out of that mentality so we can foster this independence, foster this outcome-based performance without stressing out to ourselves by going, I paid you for 10 hours. I'm not sure that was 10 hours worth of work that you did.
I think it really is starting with the outcome in mind. Like, what are you actually trying to achieve? Like, let's take the example of hiring a social media person. So the social media person's been working for you for a month. What do you want to look back on over the month and know that the business has achieved? Is it, a certain amount of posts go out every day? Is it brand building? So are you looking to increase your following and your engagement? Put a measurement around that. What are we looking to get? Is it inbound lead generation? If so, how many leads? Do we want 100 leads a month or 1,000? Or if it's, actually e-commerce sales, like how many sales? And set those targets and those outcomes. And it should be probably kind of simple and clear. Like, if I hire someone who's a marketer and I need 100 leads a month, that is the outcome.
Yeah.
Let them go and do it however they want to do it. If that means they're going to do a webinar and a series of ads and X posts on Instagram a month, that's their job to figure out their strategy. All I worry about is, are we getting the 100 leads and of the quality or whatever?
Yeah.
So I think it's really empowering your team member to figure out how they get the job done but knowing what the outcome actually looks like. So then really, why would it bother me if they managed to get me the 100 leads in 6 hours a day? Like, I think good on you.
As long as they're good quality leads, that's what you're paying for.
Exactly. If I'm getting the outcome, and roughly speaking, everyone's still going to probably work around the 8 hours a day, because roughly that, but some weeks they might not, and other weeks they might work more because all of a sudden their marketing campaigns are fatigued, so they've got to spend some time fixing it. But really, that's what I care. What is the point in me caring if they're at their computer or not, if I'm getting the leads?
If you're getting the results.
Not getting the leads, that's when I dive in and be like, so what are you doing? What are you doing with your time? How are you tackling this? What's working, what's not? That's the coaching conversation that happens if we're not getting the outcome.
It's back to being a leader. And you're talking about social media, and I think it's quite pertinent, because you just have to go on any Facebook group and, I'm looking for someone to help me with my social media. I want 7 posts a week. And every time I see that, I go,
why?
So what? Yeah. So anyone can do 7 posts a week, but what are you hoping to get out of it? Like exactly what you said. You have to know what is the outcome, because even that person, how can they get any better? It's like they did 7 posts. That's what you asked me for.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't say you want 7 posts with this much engagement or 7 posts to generate leads. You just said 7 posts, and that's what I did.
Exactly. It's just figuring out, like, what's the actual outcome for the business? Let's say it's a customer service person, someone who's answering all these inbound inquiries. Well, what is the outcome we think we want? I would say it would be something like a turnaround time, like that we are getting back to them quickly, whatever that benchmark is within our business, and a satisfaction rating. So, we need to look as well, do we have measurables for these things? Because a lot of the time as leaders, we're getting frustrated at our team, but we haven't given them any way to measure what they're doing.
What they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so we're frustrated, like, oh, the customers aren't happy. Anecdotally, we've got an email that someone's not happy with how it was resolved. Do we actually have a survey that goes to every customer after every inquiry? And do we actually know on a month by month what that moving metric is? Because once we have those things, I mean, I do live a lot by numbers. I ask every client how happy they are working with Grow My Team every single month. I ask every contractor how happy they are working with Grow My Team, working with their client every month. And I ask my internal team, how happy are you working here every month? And those 3 numbers, I know them. I live by them. It's 9.3 for our contractors right now, 9.5 for my internal team, and 8 for my clients. What do you think I'm doing as a business right now? Focusing on client engagement, making sure they're happy. But that, and so the girl who looks after the contractors, that's her number. 9.3, she's crushing. I'm like, you're doing an amazing job. Like, as long as it's over 9, I'm happy. That's what I tell her. I want it to be over 9. So she's crushing. How she does it, I mean, she implemented like an engagement, a little hub, a community hub. So all the contractors talk, and she posts things up in there, and articles and things. And it's gone from, 8.7 when we started to 9.3. So she knows she's on track. I don't really mind what hours a day she's doing that, or how she came up with the idea to do the hub and all of that. And that's amazing.
That's what you hired her for, though. That's because that's what she's good at.
Yeah. So like, I'm just now hiring the person to look after the clients, and I've got 2 people coming on, and I'm like, cool, well, we're at 8, which is not where I want us to be. So let's look at how we improve that. So that's their number. That's their outcome, is that number goes up, because that way we know our clients are happy.
Okay. You've given us loads of great advice. I would love to know, what is the one thing that you say to every client when you bring them on board? What is the one either expectation or piece of advice that you give them that you pretty much say to every single client?
Mm.
You can tell we don't send these questions in advance.
Sorry, everyone. Okay, so other than this outcomes-based thing, which I think is actually a really big part of the conversation, the other thing I say is, like, because we're in the space of remote work and offshore, they tend to be in other parts of the world, I really try to remind them that these are real people. There's a lot of the time people are looking to just plug someone in and get something done. And I'm like, this is a person. You need to train them. You need to engage with them. You need to make sure they're happy. You need to provide them with, career opportunities and development programs. It's no different to hiring someone locally. Like, if you want great outcomes, what we just talked about, if you want people to stick around so you don't have to keep training every 6 months, it's exactly the same as if you were hiring them in your office there. An example I had was a client fired a contractor let go, terminated after 2 years. And it was because he'd sold the company. It was nothing on her. He'd sold the company. He'd called a meeting with a local team and told them in person, and he emailed this chick to fire her.
Oh my
And I was just
goodness.
like, you've been working with this woman
2 years.
for 2 years and you just sent her an email. We had her on the phone crying. She's just lost her job. This is her job. This is her livelihood.
Yeah.
This is her career. And I ended up writing him an email and getting on the phone with him and just saying, like, I think you're a really great leader, but I want to just give you this feedback because,
Yeah.
we've got her on the phone crying and we're managing it. But is that what you did with your local team? And he was
Yeah.
like, no. And I was like, well, I just want to show you what happened so you can think about it and take it or leave it. But
Not a robot.
she's a human. She's not a robot. She's a human being. And she just lost her job via an email after 2 years of serving you every day and working with you and contributing to what you're building and what you've sold. And I think that's just something that I feel quite strongly about. I feel quite protective of my people, and we hire really wonderful people from all over the world. But they're humans. And probably the second piece on it is there are cultural differences. So once you start getting into a remote team, you find these cultural differences and they can very easily be misinterpreted. So we always have, in our weekly meeting, we have these discussions about culture. And I think that's a really nice thing to bring in to a remote team is like, what is it like culturally? Because if you hire someone from Asia, they have a lot of hierarchy traditionally in Asia and a lot of respect for people above and older, whereas in Australia, we have less respect and we call everyone by their first name and we're like, hey, mate, how's it going? What's up? It's not like that in parts of Asia. And so these kind of things, we had a girl from Germany the other day and she was like, Germans are very direct.
Very direct.
They're forthcoming, but they are direct. And that can be misinterpreted as like, oh, she's upset with me or he's mad at me or, gosh, I feel like he's yelling at me all the time. And like just having these discussions about how things are and how then we are as a culture within our organization and how those background or external cultures impact that and affect it is a really nice conversation to have just so that wires don't get crossed. And it's also fun. Like it's a bit of fun, like having a laugh about every time I hire someone out of Asia and I'm like, can you stop calling me like, what do they say? Like
Miss Sarah?
Miss Sarah. And I'm like, I feel really weird when you call me that. But then they laugh and they're like, but it feels really weird to call you Sarah.
Yeah.
So they're like, it feels really weird to talk to you. Like you own the business. I shouldn't even have access to you. Yeah. So like you see the differences and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah. Now, I know that you are going to be very, very generous. And you said that if people are looking for some help when it comes to hiring remotely, you are going to be offering some free 30-minute sessions to help people. Where can they sign up for that? Because you have just given us so much great advice. And I think there's a lot of people who are thinking, you know what, I am actually ready. I just don't want to do this myself.
Yep. Absolutely. We would love to chat with you. So growmyteam.com.au/free consult. And it's basically a 30-minute hiring discovery session. So we can just go through where you're at as a business, what your current team looks like, what your growth plans are, and what a remote team may look like what the structure of that may look like. I think the most exciting thing about going remote is there is a wage arbitrage that we benefit from, particularly in Australia. I'm assuming a lot of your clients are Australian based, but even in the US and so even in the US and Canada, wages in the rest of the world tend to be cheaper. So it's not everything, but it's something. And it can be really exciting to be looking at a business and be like, well, I'd really like to hire this customer service person, but locally it's going to cost whatever. And then you say, well, let's just dream big. What does the team look like when it's at its full fruition, and be like, well, we might be able to do that for you now or over the next 6 to 12 months, because you might be able to afford that as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And you can't do it all yourself. It's impossible.
No.
Yeah.
Why would you want to? I have the best life ever now. Oh, I just lead and inspire my team and think of cool stuff for us to do. That's where my strength is, and I love it every day. I don't want to do all those things anymore. It's like, I'm not that good at it.
I had Jane Liu from Showpo. I interviewed her earlier in the year.
Great.
And I said to her, so what exactly do you do now in the business? And she's like, PR and social media. It's what I love doing. So even though she has
find what you love.
Yeah, this gives you, when you have the people, it gives you the freedom to do the thing that you actually started this business for, the thing that really lights you up.
Yeah. I love leading and inspiring, and I just love, which is funny why I ended up in Grow My Team now, but I love building a team. Like community, team, people is all about, that's what my life's always been about. I love just rallying the troops and doing something cool to make the world better or whatever. That's what I love. And I love like thinking and problem solving and just like strategizing on things. So that's what I want to do.
Now you
every
get
day.
to do it.
Yep. Oh, I've got an alarm going off. Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And for everyone who's listening, if you want to find out more about Sarah and her service, you could do so at growmyteam.com.au. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selenaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selenaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.